Hi everyone, this is Simone Baldwin with Simone Baldwin Productions. Thank you so much for tuning into our second project, 5 Seasons of Waiting. Last year in 2021, we talked to married couples and they talked about their relationship, their 5 seasons of their love. So I thought that there's a gap missing here. There's something missing. We need to talk to some singles and get their perspectives. What are their experiences in their courtship life, in their dating life? So we came up with 5 seasons of waiting. We're going to talk to 7 singles talking about their seasons of waiting intentionally for either their purpose mate that God wants for them or them just being content in their singleness. So come with us on this journey. The first episode is spring. They'll talk about their reasons for choosing to wait. They'll also talk about if they feel any sort of anxiousness or gambling with time while waiting. And also, what are their deal breakers? While they're dating, what are the things that is a red flag, a no-go for them? No, no exceptions to the rule, out the door, out the door. So come with us on this journey as we talk to these singles and they tell us what are their deal breakers, what are their challenges, and even why did they choose to wait. Me, personally, I chose to wait simply because I wanted to be pleasing to God. Yes, I've had my areas where I fell and I got back on the horse, if you will, but ultimately I just wanted to be pleasing to God. And these singles here will talk about their reasons to wait as well. Let's get to spring.
How much time do you have, really? So my decision to wait kind of became a thing because just life started lifing. I was in a relationship with this guy that I felt like was the love of my life, and this was like right out of college. So we met like in 2000 and what was that, 2001. I graduated college and met him on like a Yahoo chat room. Remember when Yahoo was like this thing? And so I met him on a Yahoo chat room and we just started talking. I thought he was in a fraternity. I was in a sorority and I had just joined the sorority. And so we started talking in that way. We started dating about a year into the relationship. We knew that we were supposed to be it, right? And for whatever reason, like my past became a thing in the relationship. I grew up in a dysfunctional upbringing. My mom and my dad always fought, abusive. My dad was an alcoholic. He abused my mom. And so seeing that dynamic, I always said that I just never wanted to be like my mom. And so because I kind of saw her as being weak, and so I kind of took on the characteristics of my abusive dad. And that started playing out in my relationship. And so one day, this guy that I was in this relationship with, the one that I just knew was my it, he said, look, I can't do this with you anymore. He just didn't grow up like me, right? And so after he ended the relationship, which I understood, it hurt at the time, but I understood it, I decided that, you know what, I need to work on myself. I need to work on all of what is coming into these relationships with me in terms of the dynamic that I saw with my mom and my dad. And I need to heal from it. And so I asked God to help me to heal, essentially. And so I had this friend that I met at church. And I asked her actually to be my practice husband. And this is weird, right? Because we're girls. But I said, can you be my practice husband? And she was like, what is a practice husband? And I said, a practice husband is someone to help me to just practice loving someone. Would you help me to just love you? Learn how to love. I didn't know how to love in a healthy way. And so I took a break from dating, from relationships, just to learn how to love. Because every time I entered a relationship, I, the common denominator, would mess it up because I didn't know how to love. And so for years, I just practiced loving this young lady, my friend. And we would argue, we would fuss, I would be triggered. I'd be so triggered. And she was patient with me. She loved me through it every single step of the way. And I just learned how to love. And so, but during that time, it was really important to me to take that time out to just learn how to be healthy. Because I want, like, my desire above everything else is to have a healthy, loving relationship. When I get into a marriage, I want it to be worth it. I want it to be healthy. I don't want to get into a marriage and be miserable. Like, what's the point, right? And so that is what kind of led me on this journey of just kind of just taking my time, slowing down, pumping the brakes, and just waiting on the right situation. But I had to be right before I could find the right situation with the right person.
I chose to wait to be single because of a failed relationship with my son's father. And I was a single mom. I wanted to raise my son in the best way that I thought was good for him. And that meant not having other relationships in front of him, to see him with other men. It mattered to me that he would see a woman, his mother, not be in relationships with one man, then another. I thought that would be bad for him. And so I chose to remain single. And I wanted to make sure that I was able to maintain a good income to provide for my housing, clothing, food for my son and I, and to make sure he was a well-adjusted young kid at the time. So that's why I chose to remain.
I think the primary reason why I chose to wait was in my 30s, and I am over 30. In my 30s, I chose to get married. I prayed about it, and God said no to the person, but I chose to marry him anyway. We stayed married 9 years, and it was really difficult. It was probably the most difficult 9 years of my life. Just fighting to stay in that marriage that was never the will of God for my life. And it was difficult. And after that, I decided that I would rather obey God and rather than to suffer the consequences.
My reason for choosing to wait was after being in failed relationships that just didn't work out. My divorce is what led me into starting off to having to wait. I was married, thought it was going to last forever. It didn't. I never used to being by myself. So I was in relationships after relationships that failed. So it came to a time where I was just forced to being by myself. And that's when I found that I was actually good with being alone. I had to spend time getting to know Aretha, spend more time developing a deeper relationship with God. And that's when I was really good with being by myself.
One of the reasons I decided to wait, of course, life happens, and I had a very unfortunate life circumstance that happened to me. And of course, I was married for 30 years, and wife transitioned, and so went to heaven. And so, therefore, put me in a place here where I am now a single man. And so, my waiting part of that led me to me being, of course, single, and now waiting to be married. Waiting is a wonderful process. We got married when I was age 22, and now I'm at the age that I am now. And so, with that being said, I'm learning a lot about myself from the age of 22. I don't remember my age to age 53. So I'm learning there was a young man there. Now there's a twice grown man. And so, therefore, my waiting part is so that I'm rediscovering who I am, learning more things about myself that I think that I can offer to my next wife. Some things that I didn't do as fairly as well on the first marriage that I think I know I have to strengthen on the second. And so that waiting period is a process where I'm tearing away things that I believe that will interfere with my ability to relate to my new wife and to bond with her. And it helps brush off or strengthen also areas that I need to keep strengthening, also areas that needs to be strengthened, so that I can be the best husband that I can to my new wife. My first wife did inform me of all the things that I need to, the shortcomings, and all of us have idiosyncrasies, and so I'm working on those things. So my waiting period is so that I can offer a better me. I believe there's no better me, there's no better we. I highly believe that in a relationship, you have to work on yourself and take responsibilities for your own actions. So that's one of the reasons that I'm choosing to wait, and that I know the waiting will pay off. Preparation is never lost time. So I believe waiting still it's going to benefit on the back end of the relationship or the back end of my life.
Life. Because I know I didn't always want to wait. Growing up, seeing all my friends and all my family getting married, I wanted to be married. And then I had to realize something, I feel like a seed was planted years ago in me, and I didn't really know what that was until I grew up and started to get more in the Word, but it was like, no, this is not your time. And I remember saying to myself, Shamika, when it's your time, it's going to be beautiful. You don't want to be with everyone else. You want your special moment. And I realized also that I wasn't ready. If I had gotten married back then when everybody else was getting married, it would not have been a good situation. I still had to grow in the Lord. I had to grow in the Word. I had to love me more.
Choosing to wait. What life experiences caused me to wait, choose to wait? So I will say, aside from the Word of God, we should be waiting. We should be waiting for marriage, but I didn't do that. So here I am today. I think having made a lot of bad decisions with relationships has caused me to just take a step back and choose to wait and really redefine who I am, because I found myself catering to other people's desires, other people's wants, other people's needs, and it wasn't reciprocated. So it made me really have to look at, okay, Renee, what are you doing? And why are you doing what you're doing? And you're the only one that doesn't get satisfied. And so with that, it was some choices I had to make, and nobody can make them for me. And so the choice that I decided to make was, you know what, Renee, just go ahead and step back. This is not what you signed up for. This is not what you really want. You're not happy. So why don't you just take a break and just really dive into God and see what God has for you? So that was my choice to wait.
Mynisha J. Rogers, minister, entrepreneur, and author of the Healing Network book states, the key to believing, receiving, and maintaining our healing is found in our network, which consists of the FAR principle: faith, action, and relationships. She reminds us that God still heals. He healed before, He is healing now, and He will heal again. So now is the time to believe, receive, and maintain your healing. Get your copy today.
Oh my God. So I'm currently like in my 40s, right? And so, yeah, I would say, over the last 20 years, I have felt like I was gambling with time because, they always say like women's reproductive system, like I want a kid, right? Like when I got saved, like one of the first things that God started ministering to me was about my family, my 2 kids, and my husband, my tall husband. And in my purpose, like that was what God started talking to me about. And so like even thinking about that makes me kind of feel like there should be a time period on it, right? And so as I'm like trying to be healthy, as I'm trying to grow and develop and live in my life, yeah, I do feel like time is ticking. Like what's going on? So yes, I do feel like I'm gambling with time sometimes.
I wouldn't say gamble. I would say that because I'm a woman of a certain age, and I don't mind telling my age, I'm 67, and possibly by the time you view this, I will have turned 68. To find a man that's around my age, a couple of years older, or even a couple of years younger, it could turn into a health issue. People are my age are suffering from different things. I know I am, but I appear to be more or less healthy. So it would be good for someone that would choose me to be healthy.
No, because I trust God. I believe that God has a plan and has a great man for me. And I would rather wait for the great man than to get somebody who's not great. That sounds disrespectful, but to have somebody who's not great for me. He might be a great man on his own and he might be great for somebody else, but I need the right fit for me. And I understand that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody is my cup of tea. So I really want to wait on God to have what's right for me.
Actually, no. No, because I really like who I am, and I feel like in time, while waiting, God is working. So I have faith that whatever happens will be His will. So I trust His will for my life. So I don't feel like I'm gambling. I feel like I've learned. I'm learning. I've learned so much from the past about myself. So no, I'm actually, because you have to be good with yourself. And then I'm really good with myself. And it's just more to come.
You know, that question made me laugh. And in the world, as we perceive, of course, you know, I'm a man of God, so I do trust the biblical principles of time. So the Bible talks about the appointed time in Habakkuk 2:2, and then also talks about that God redeems the time. So I believe that my waiting period, going back to question one, my waiting period helps me prepare me for the appointed time. The appointed time is my divine time for me to find her, for us to connect. Even though I'm looking at a biological time frame of my life, I'm not worried about that, because when I connect with her, God now redeems the time. So the year that I say that if I'm waiting, my first wife transitioned at 3 years, so that's that 3 years. But I believe when I find her, I believe God's going to go back, and it's only something spiritual that God does. He's going to make sure that those 3 years that I waited or prepped, or 4 or 5 years, that it'll be attached on to the current relationships. And so I believe, again, that redemption of time is something that God does for believers. So I don't let my biological clock control me or cause me to make unwise decisions to rush the process. If you rush the process of a cake, it's not going to come out right. If you rush the process of cooking some things, you know that it just takes time to cook. And so with that being said, I don't want to rush the process and mess up the whole time frame of us being married. But I know God will give it back to me, even in my biological state. He's not going to give me necessary, that year back, but He'll redeem that time like supernaturally. So me and my new wife can really enjoy and feel like, hear people say that, I feel like I've been knowing you all my life. And that's the kind of time frame I believe God that gives back to believers, where we don't miss it. And then therefore that calls us to rush to make a premature decision about our lives.
No. One thing that I have learned in my life is delay does not mean denial. I think there was a time when I was always like, okay, I gotta go. I'm 25, I'm 26. My mom had me around that time, and she was married, and I kept comparing myself to her, and I'm like, no, just delay doesn't mean denial. Just because it's not happening now does not mean it's not gonna happen. And it's not about your timetable or your will, it's about God's will, and His way is His best.
So gambling with time while waiting is a huge factor. And I can speak for myself, but I think I speak for a lot of women. Once you start hitting the 40s and the 50s, you're thinking a lot of times, God, when is my turn? You're seeing everyone else, you're seeing all these young people. And for me, my personal experience is my daughter's engaged to a magnificent young man who is a great provider. I mean, he does the most. He goes out of his way to just anything that she says. He's doing it. And not that she's asking, it might be a conversation where she said she wanted to start a garden. And here he goes for Valentine's Day, he buys her a greenhouse. So I'm just like, dude, I mean, he can't do anything more than what he's done. Her ring, he bought her an engagement ring, didn't like the ring, so then he upgraded and got a second ring. I mean, and this was his decision. So it wasn't anything that she said. I mean, he does everything. He pays all the bills. He doesn't ask her to do anything. And so I'm watching that and thinking to myself, okay, God, my daughter is just in her 20s and I'm already in my 50s and I've never been married. And so you're always wondering, God, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I miss? Did I miss Mr. Right for me? Did I miss my Boaz? And so it's hard. It gets hard. It gets challenging. You start to second guess yourself. You start to think that, how did I mess up? Or when did I mess up? And is that the reason why I'm not married today? And I promise you, it's a struggle that I have today, but at the same time, I'd rather wait for the one than to go through some half ones. I'd rather wait for the one than to go through the halfsies. and have the headache that I'm seeing today. Just, dabbled in the online dating, thinking, well, maybe I'm not putting myself out there like I should. So that's why I'm 50 some years old, still single. And I tell you what, I didn't miss anything. Let me tell you something. I'm off of online dating because there's some jokers out there. So yes, there is a gamble. You think that, time is against you, but I believe that God's timing is perfect. And so I have to wrap my mind around that every day. I can't let the enemy have my mind and make me think I missed a moment, or that should have been me, or this should be, some other time for me, or I missed it, or something like that. I can't let the enemy trick me into thinking those statements are true when I know that God reigns. He rules and reigns. He makes no mistakes, and his timing is perfect. I might not understand it, but I realize also, because I have to renew my mind daily, I better get with his plan in order for me to stay on track. So yes, I had that struggle with that gambling, thinking that time is against me, but at the same time, I'd rather wait for something perfect from God. And not saying that he will be perfect, but I believe the relationship will be exactly what I need, perfect in that sense.
I've had to adjust that over the years, because when I first started wanting to date again, I had this long laundry list of things that I was like, you gotta have this. He gotta be tall. Like, he gotta be 6'5", number one. He gotta be 6'5". Gotta be tall, dark, and handsome. He has to have money. All that stuff. But as time has progressed, I've kind of relaxed some of those kind of wants, and I'm starting to look at, okay, what do I need, right? And what I need is someone that's teachable. What I need is someone that is humble, someone that has an ability to grow and to develop and to be flexible. So those are kind of like the deal breakers for me in regards to, if you're not able to grow with me, if you're not able to do work with me, then I'm not really going to consider that person as a potential.
A deal breaker would be one who does not believe in the Lord, who does not put the Lord first, and doesn't respect or care for me and my son, who is now an adult, but mostly is about me. One that works with me. What would really gravitate me to a man would be that he does believe in the Lord, that he puts God first in his life. God is number one, paramount in his life. Also, he would have to keep me first in his sights, in his life. And that's just about it.
I value things like integrity, honesty, love, respect, a relationship with God. I value things like that. So for me, people that are not respectful, people that lack integrity, people who lie, people who are not honorable, in their dealings, whether that's personal dealings or business dealings, people that are not honorable. Those are things that are deal breakers for me. And I mean, and in addition to that, things like smoking and just bad behavior are deal breakers for me.
I like someone that's, of course, God-fearing, first and foremost. Very upfront. Allows me to be comfortable with who Aretha is. I don't want to walk on eggshells around you. I want to be myself after learning who I am, and I'm comfortable with that. Not necessarily what they say, the tall, dark, and handsome. I'm not into all that, because that may not be what God has for me, for my life. So basically, for me, I just want a God-fearing man, someone, of course, is a family person, and just allows me to be who I am.
I am definitely a couple of things I think can be a deal breaker for me. Somebody asked me one day, and I'll go back to that question. I'm going to join the questions. They asked me, am I looking for my wife, Tanya Taylor? Am I looking for her again? It was just going to be hard to replace her. And one of the things that I need them to understand, that I'm not looking for her personality, because everyone always have a wonderful persona. I'm looking for certain biblical character traits, and therefore I can separate the woman's personality from the qualities or the quality. So some of the qualities I'm looking for, definitely a lover of God, definitely that quality that she wants a relationship with the Lord, character building. She wants to be with God. God's more important than me. And that's something I'm looking for this woman to be fully sold out to the Lord. That's a deal breaker for me. She has to love God more than me, more than life, more than anything. And then I of course, would like to be her second most important person. And that's kind of the order that I'm looking for. And then we can, however life happens with the other order of priorities. That is one. And also her willingness to be pliable, to grow, to want to learn and grow. Of course, when we meet, we're going to, be in our first year or whatever, whether it be dating or whether it be marriage, then we have to continue to grow into the relationship. Some people fall in love. I don't want to fall in love. I want to grow in love. I think growing in love is biblical. I think falling in love is a problem. When you fall in, I believe people fall out. And a fall is indicative of something bad. And so I don't want to fall in love. I want to grow gracefully in love with her. And then allow us to build together and to bond together. You know what I mean? But again, those qualities, gotta love God first, and also I definitely want her to be pliable for growth and development, because we're gonna find things out. As much as we put on the table in a relationship, there's things that still come up that you may forgot to tell, or the major things you might like she needs to know this or he needs to know this, but I think some things we just forget to talk about. And it pops up in the relationship, but it could be a deal breaker because you didn't bring it up. But I mean, off the top of my head, God has to be everything to her, and then she has to be willing to grow, because I think everybody can grow to a place or develop to a place to love and to make adjustments along the way for a healthy relationship.
I wouldn't have said this years ago, but first and foremost is they do not have their own personal relationship with God. But not only they don't have their own relationship, they're not walking the way God wants us to walk. They're not being an example of God on this earth. Anger, jealousy, mentally, emotionally, physically abusive. But mainly, and this one really just dropped in my spirit, if they don't have that one-on-one time with God, if they don't love God more than they love me. Because there was a point in time when I wanted a man to just love me and I had to be this number one, and now I'm like, do you love God more than me? Okay, and then we can talk. And that's that.
So the qualities that are deal breakers, anyone that does not have a relationship with God, when they cannot even acknowledge that God has woke them up this morning, or that God has caused them to be blessed in life, if they believe that they have it on their own, that's a deal breaker for me, because at my age, that's something that you're really not going to be able to change on someone. God has to do that. And so I'm not in it to change anyone's mind. If God sends me to that person, it would have to be God. But for me, that is a deal breaker when someone cannot acknowledge that God rules and reigns and is supreme. The second deal breaker is someone that does not have integrity. Because if they don't have integrity, they don't have integrity with how they deal with people and their characteristics, how they treat people in life and things like that, how are they going to treat me? And so that's a huge issue with me, because I know some people that don't have integrity in other areas of their lives. And so it always makes me wonder, do they have integrity when they're talking with me? And so when I see that kind of behavior, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, I don't know if this person's being truthful with me or not. And so it just sits there with me. It doesn't go away. There's really nothing they can do, because I know this person really doesn't have integrity in their business dealings and things like that. So integrity is a huge issue for me. And then also consideration. One of the things that I realize is, and this is just my saying, the person that cannot feel your pain is one of the worst people that you can deal with. They could be nice people, but if they don't see or feel your pain and they cannot acknowledge it, you could be sitting there in a hurtful state and they are completely clueless. That is somebody that is not connected to you. And I think as a woman, I have been around people that were fine, great jobs, great cars, houses, had everything else going on, but this person did not connect with me. And because I thought this person was a great catch, I wanted to be connected to them. I wanted to force a chemistry that was not there. And this person could not feel my pain. This person could not feel that I was in pain because of the way that they did not treat me. And so to me, these are some of the most dangerous persons in your circle, are the people that cannot feel your pain. You be sitting there silently crying, suffering in silence, or suffering outwardly, and they don't have a clue. And it's not that they don't care. They don't want to care. And then, so to me, that's that person that's really dangerous. And so those three things right there are big for me. I could work with most other things, but if you can't even feel my pain, there is no future. There is no future. I think women are more feeling. We have that empathy and that sympathy, and it kind of rides side by side. We try to say the right things. We try to do the right things. We try to be the right things for other people. And a lot of times we get shortchanged because a lot of people are not trying to do the same for us. And so a lot of times there are a lot of withdrawals people are making from us, and there's rarely deposits. And because there's no deposits, not in the level, not at the same level that we're giving out, we end up with empty cups a lot of times. And at this point in my life, in my 50s, I'm understanding when my cup runs dry that, hey, I'm not expecting anyone else in that circle to fill it up. I'm expecting me to keep that cup full at this hour. So those are some deal breakers for me. I have to have good, constant deposits, and that's only going to come from God.
I want to be a part of bringing excellent and compelling content to life. From finding talent as a casting director to producing strong projects for television and film. There's something amazing and beautiful when the casting director can help usher the actor into transforming into a character, helping them to see and be the character, understanding the character's life story without seeing a face because they're the face.
You happy? I thought when I gave myself up, that was enough for you to be happy, but obviously not. Obviously not.
My purpose is a gift from God, and I'm honored and humbled by it. Oprah Winfrey once mentioned that you know you're doing what you're purposed to do when you can do it for hours on end. I'm excited to be able to live in my purpose and bring Simone Baldwin Productions to serve and deliver.